Okay, so in today's class, we will learn the inline table valued functions, how to create them, and how to call an inline table valued function, and where do we use inline table valued functions. Okay. As the name suggests, you see that it's a table valued function. Compared to the function that was scalar function, where the scalar function returns a scalar value. Scalar means a single value. Inline table value function will return a whole table. Okay, so this is basically just like stored procedures. Like if you remember in the stored procedures, when we create a stored procedure, it can, like if it has like select statement, something like this select statement, it would also return you a table, right? So these functions, the inline table value functions, will also return a table. Okay. And I will talk about the differences between these inline table value functions and then stored procedures a little later. But for now, let's take a look at how do we create them and what is the syntax for that. So the first thing that we specify table as the return type instead of any scalar data type. If you remember from the last class, when we were creating this function, we were saying returns and then a data type, as you see here. Okay? Because it would return a singular value, and we were providing a data type for that value. Okay? So, but for table value functions, we do not specify a data type because since it returns a whole table, we say returns a table. Okay? Because it returns a table. Okay, and then creating the table value functions is almost the same like the scalar function with minor differences. So I will put inline table valued function, and you would just like any other function or any other object in SQL, you would say create function and then give the name for this function. Let's give this function a name, say table. Okay. And then the difference is, if you see here, we're using the begin and end, right? Yeah. But for inline table value functions, you don't have to use that. You see, it says the function body is not enclosed between begin and end block. Okay. So you don't have to use the, well, actually you don't use the begin and end block. And then the third difference is the structure of the table that gets returned is determined by the select statement within the function. Okay. Well, this is kind of obvious because whatever we select in here, that will get returned. So the second thing is we don't use the begin and end block. So I will comment that out, or actually I can delete that also, but I want you to see that it was there, and now we don't use that. No need for begin and end block. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's not make it confusing. I'll just remove them, and I'll just say no need for begin and end block. Okay. And now, before creating this table, let's see what do we want out of this function. Okay. Yeah. And let's say we have, what tables do we have? We have personal info. We have salesman. Okay, let's select everything from the salesman table. Okay. Yeah, so this is what we have in the salesman table. Now let's just write a very simple select statement, okay? Let's filter this table by, let's say by commission that's higher than 15, okay? So for that, we will say select all from salesman where let's say where commission is less than, higher than 50, right? This is a very basic select statement. It will return all of the information about the salesmen that have higher commission than 15. Okay. So now let's say this. So this is what will our function be doing. Okay. So in the body part of the function, I'll just put this select statement. Okay? But now we have to tell SQL Server that this function should return the result of this select statement, right? So for that, as you can see here, we say return, and then we put that select statement within the parentheses. So this knows that it will return whatever the result of the statement that's within this parentheses. Okay?
Yeah.
So, like in the scalar function, if you see here, we would say return, and then we would say age. Like in this case, we would basically we were returning the value for this variable that we create on the way. But here we will say return, and then we will put this in bracket or parentheses. Okay, just like this. And let's name our table little meaningful, give it a little meaningful name since we're selecting the salesman. Okay. And now let's create this function. So we say create function and then give it a meaningful name, and then we say returns table, and then as, and then return, and then the select statement. All right. Create function this, as this, as this, and then that. Let's see. Return statement with a return value kind of using its context. Why not? Oops. Let's continue. Okay, so now we have created this table value function. Now what happens is we also have this commission parameter that we just introduced. This you should already know. We're basically this is an input parameter of type integer, and when we pass a value for this will come here, and then basically the select statement will run with the value that we have provided. Okay. So now what I can do is I can say select DBO UDF salesman with value of say 10. I think it should be within the parentheses. I find it a column, DBO or UDF salesman. Just a second. So let's try to put this in here. I'm gonna find it a column, DBO or DBO UDF salesman. Let's see if it got actually created. It should be there. Programmability function, table value function, DBO UDF salesman. Okay. Let's use the real name and let's execute this. Let's remove this part and try again. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Let's go back to our slides. Select. Okay. So you see this how to call